You've probably felt it already, not as a theory, not as a statistic, but as a quiet tension you carry through everyday interactions. More arguments, more defensiveness, more people ready to twist your words, drain your energy, and turn every situation into something about them. It feels like toxic behavior isn't rare anymore. It's normal. It's expected. It's everywhere. And if you've been wondering why society seems to be producing more of these people than ever before, you're not imagining it. This isn't coincidence. This isn't bad luck. This is the result of deep psychological, cultural, and social shifts that have created a perfect environment for toxic personalities to grow, multiply, and thrive. What you're witnessing is not just individual behavior. It's a system problem. And it starts much deeper than most people realize. The slow death of emotional awareness. At the root of this shift is emotional numbness. Modern life is overstimulated, hyperconnected, and relentlessly demanding. Noise everywhere, opinions everywhere, pressure everywhere. People are constantly reacting, constantly performing, constantly being watched. But what's missing is reflection. Most people no longer know how to sit with discomfort. They don't know how to feel without escaping. They don't know how to process emotion without immediately externalizing it. So instead of slowing down and understanding what they feel, they choose faster coping mechanisms: avoidance, denial, projection, blame. And when these patterns repeat long enough, they stop being coping strategies and become personality traits. This is where toxicity begins. Because when someone avoids their own pain long enough, they lose empathy for the pain of others. When self-reflection disappears, accountability goes with it. Hurting others becomes easier than confronting what's broken inside. That's not cruelty by nature. It's emotional neglect turned outward. Instant gratification and the rise of entitlement. Now combine emotional numbness with a culture obsessed with speed. Fast entertainment, fast validation, fast opinions, fast outrage. Everything is designed to be immediate. And when speed meets entitlement, something dangerous happens. People begin to believe they deserve outcomes without effort, respect without responsibility, and validation without self-development. This mindset rewards manipulation. It rewards shortcuts. It rewards emotional exploitation. Toxic behavior thrives here because it works. Why build patience when you can demand attention? Why develop character when you can manufacture dominance? Why grow emotionally when blaming others is faster? In this environment, emotional maturity feels optional and selfishness feels justified. People aren't encouraged to evolve. They're encouraged to win, no matter the cost. The silent epidemic. Emotional illiteracy. One of the most destructive changes happening right now is the rise of emotional illiteracy. People know how to express opinions, but not feelings. They know how to argue, but not reflect. They know how to accuse, but not take responsibility. They confuse emotional expression with emotional intelligence, and those are not the same thing. When someone lacks emotional language, they default to survival mode. And survival mode often looks aggressive, defensive, controlling, or manipulative. This is why toxic people feel unpredictable. One moment calm, the next explosive. One moment charming, the next cruel. They're not regulating emotion, they're reacting to it. Most toxic people are not evil. They're emotionally underdeveloped adults who learned control instead of connection. And society keeps rewarding that behavior. The platforms that feed toxicity. Social media doesn't create toxicity, but it amplifies it. The loudest voices get the most attention. The harshest takes spread fastest. Conflict is more profitable than nuance. Drama is engagement. Outrage is currency. Influencers turn selfishness into branding. Narcissism gets reframed as confidence. Emotional insensitivity gets marketed as being real. And every time destructive behavior is rewarded with attention, the message becomes clear. This works. Do more of it. Over time, envy, comparison, insecurity, and domination stop being side effects. They become goals. Disconnection from the self. Beneath all of this lies something deeper and more uncomfortable. People are losing connection to themselves. When someone doesn't know who they are, they look for identity through power. When they don't feel grounded, they seek control. When they can't tolerate their own flaws, they attack the flaws of others. This is why toxic people find comfort in tearing others down. It distracts them from the emptiness they refuse to face. Superiority becomes a shield. Criticism becomes armor. Control becomes safety. And the more disconnected someone is internally, the more aggressive they become externally. A fragile society. Here's a truth few people are willing to say out loud. Society is becoming more fragile. People are overwhelmed, insecure, overstimulated, and emotionally exhausted. And when someone feels powerless inside, they often try to reclaim power by taking it from others. Toxic behavior becomes a survival strategy. Not a healthy one, but a common one. Vulnerability feels dangerous, so it gets buried, and what replaces it is defensiveness disguised as strength. This is why the world feels like an emotional minefield. Conversations feel risky, boundaries get punished, disagreements feel personal. People aren't developing thicker skin, they're developing thinner ones. And thin skin combined with a large ego creates explosive reactions. Why everything feels like a battle now. Ordinary interactions now feel tense because people aren't listening, they're defending. They twist your words because they're insecure. They lash out because they're overwhelmed. They blame you because fixing themselves feels impossible. They manipulate because honesty requires vulnerability they don't possess. Society didn't just create toxic people. It created an environment where toxicity becomes the default response to discomfort. And most of them don't even know they're toxic. They think they're protecting themselves. They think they're standing up for their truth. They think control equals confidence. This illusion spreads because there's no pressure to grow, no incentive to self-reflect, and no real accountability for emotional harm. The disappearance of consequences. There was a time when behavior had weight. If someone acted cruelly, their reputation suffered. Their community pushed back. There were consequences. Today, people can burn bridges and simply move on. New circles, new platforms, new identities. Accountability has become optional. And when people can behave badly without paying a price, toxic behavior multiplies. Even worse, toxic people grow bolder. They criticize freely but call you sensitive when you respond. They violate boundaries, then accuse you of being difficult. They weaponize therapy language to excuse behavior they have no intention of changing. And because society treats emotional discomfort as injustice, manipulation becomes easy. Performance over character. At the deepest level, toxicity rises because modern life rewards appearance over substance. People want to look confident rather than be confident. They want admiration without effort. They want superiority without growth. Developing character takes time. Performing a personality takes seconds. So many choose the performance. The result is a world full of inflated egos hiding fragile inner lives. And when ego outgrows maturity, toxicity fills the gap. This is why arguing with toxic people feels impossible. You're not debating ideas, you're threatening their identity. They don't want truth, they want dominance. They don't want solutions, they want control. The more fragile they are inside, the more aggressive they become outside. The decline of self-awareness. People rarely pause now, rarely reflect, rarely examine their patterns. They react instead of understand. And when someone lives in reaction mode, every disagreement feels like an attack. Every boundary feels like rejection. And every challenge feels like disrespect. You cannot expect emotional intelligence from people who never learned how to sit with themselves. Where your power comes from. Here's the truth that gives you leverage. The rise of toxic people doesn't mean you're powerless. It means your self-awareness is more valuable than ever. The more chaotic society becomes, the more your calm stands out. The more manipulation becomes normal, the more your clarity becomes protection. The more people lose themselves, the more grounded you become. You don't need to fix toxic people. You don't need to explain yourself to them. You don't need to absorb their dysfunction. You just need to understand how they operate so you don't mistake their damage for your responsibility. When you stay grounded, they lose control. When you stay calm, they lose influence. When you stay self-aware, they lose the power to distort your reality. Toxic people thrive in confusion. They crumble in clarity. So keep strengthening your mind. Keep building emotional boundaries. Keep learning how to respond instead of react. You're living in a world where toxicity is increasing, but that only makes your awareness more important, more powerful, and more necessary. And if you want more insights to stay emotionally strong in a society that's slowly losing itself, make sure you're here for what comes next. Your clarity matters. Your growth matters. Now more than ever.